Hello and welcome to Photography Out Loud. My name is Paul Davis, and as always, I'm joined with my colleague Joel Longbone. How are you doing? You all right?
Hello. Good, thank you. You?
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. So very special episodes that we've got coming up today. So it's always lovely to have special guests on Photography Out Loud. So hence the slightly bigger smile than normal. So. And it can go even bigger because of the guest that we've got here as well today. So we always love seeing our lovely special guests that come. Yeah.
It'll be even better when we can see them for real.
I know. We'll get there.
We need to get our wingback chair ready.
Yep. Yeah. I think we should make one from scratch.
Okay. You're going to learn how to become an upholsterer.
Yeah, why not?
Okay. Add that to the list of the many other things we're doing and learning at the moment.
Yeah, there silly is. Oh, it's been an amazing week. We've had a lovely week. So lots of sort of orders coming through as normal. So big thank you to all of our lovely, wonderful customers. Managed to speak to a couple this week as well. So talking about sort of new gear to upgrade to and everything like that. So big thank you to everyone there as well. So shall we quickly go to the hellos in the comments, see who's watching?
Yeah, let's see. So we have Paul Sanders saying, "Nice hair, boys." That's only because just before we go live, we're always like making sure everything's in the right place, especially given we're both getting lockdown locks. Every time we run the beginning credits, I see like the video of me where I've had like a fresh haircut and like a trim and everything. I'm like, the good old days when I could go and see my barber. So I'm definitely looking forward to that when that's a thing again. Hence the nice hair, boys. Took a lot of explanation. David Yeoman says, "Good afternoon, Paul and Joel." Good afternoon to you, David. Hope you're well. Paul Sanders says, "Joel, you look very blue." This side is blue and this side is warmer because I have a warmer light this side because just as I went live, I got told I look too blue. I'm still getting daylight through this side, and the camera obviously doesn't know which one to compensate for. Hence the color cast issue. But there we go. Such is life. Trish says, "Nice to see you, boys. Nice to see you too, Trish." How far are the ospreys moving up the country now? Let us know in the comments. Paul Sanders says, "Hello, everyone." And Graham says, "Hi, guys." Hello, Graham. Good to see you. And Helen Smith is here again saying hello with waving, dancing cat ladies. So Hello, Helen. Thank you for the emoji as always. David Yeoman has a different explanation as to why I'm blue. It's because I haven't got the heating on. Although I'm wearing my t-shirt today, so
yeah, we only have one Cambrian jacket between us, so you know I've got it on today.
Yeah, you never see it on us in the same frame. Andrew says, "Good afternoon." Good afternoon to you, Andrew. Hope all is well over there. Mark Bray says, "Hi guys." Hello. Michael Ellis says, "Afternoon." Afternoon to you too. And Leon says, "Hi guys." Hello, Leon. Good to see you. And Trish has said, "I've only joined today to say hello to Paul Sanders." I don't know whether to be offended or not.
It's
I won't be because I don't offend easily. So I'll say hello to you anyway. Well, I'm sure Paul will say hello when he comes on. David says, "Hello guys, good to see you." Good to see you too, David. Steve says, "A lovely sunny good afternoon, guys." Yeah, it is really nice today.
Yeah.
My kids have been playing out in the garden, which was really nice. It's nice to see some sun rather than wind and rain. Tina says, "Good afternoon, boys." Good afternoon, Tina. Good to see you. And Howard says, hello from Parkgate in Cheshire. Good to see you too, Howard. Hope all is well in Cheshire. Dennis says, I like you with a colour cast, Joel. Thanks. I'm glad you can bring positives to the conversation, Dennis. And Trish says, only one seen to date near London. Brennig is usually end of March. Well, fingers crossed that we'll see them in Brennig. That's very exciting. Oh, and Nige. Hi, guys. Hi, Nige. Good to see you. And Gareth Morn also says, afternoon, lads. Hello to you, Gareth. Looking forward to some workshops with you in the future when that's allowed again. We've got lots of good ideas for events. Keep seeing my calendar fill up with different ideas from different people, so this is good. And Malcolm says, hello, looking forward to this. Hello, Malcolm. Welcome. Yeah, it'll be a good one. Anything with Paul Sanders is great. So, yeah, let's... Oh, some news. Quickly,
some news. Yeah,
we've not
before
got too much
crack
news
on
really.
With the main event. So there has
before
been
the news.
You're very sporadic today, Joel.
I know. I was just thinking, because you said about sales and people being helpful and nice earlier. Thank you to everybody who has given us Trustpilot reviews, Google reviews, and Facebook reviews. We're very, very grateful. And some of the things you've said is so nice. It was really encouraging, especially in these bizarre times we live in. So thank you again. And if you haven't had a chance, we'd love it if you could give us a Trustpilot review or a Facebook review or a Google review, or 2 or 3. Like, get the whole set. It's like Pokemon, you got to catch them all. So yeah, it'd be great if you could, if you haven't already. We're very appreciative of people that give us good reviews. So, and if you're not going to give us a good review, let us know. See if we can improve it before you give us a bad one. And the news. Sigma have just released the 2870 2.8 for crop sensor mirrorless. So that's E mount for Sony and L mount, which is Sigma's partnership with Leica and Panasonic.
But I do think it's full frame, Joel.
Oh, full frame.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right, because L mount is full frame. David Yeoman will soon tell me I'm wrong. So it's all good.
That was a
Thank
test.
You, Paul.
That was a test for David, actually.
Yeah. So yeah, full frame. But if it's as good as the rest of the Global Vision range, the contemporary art and sports lenses, then it's likely to be a very, very good lens. Because big fans of the Sigma range for sure. So looking forward to seeing that.
And more importantly, it's following obviously the newer range. Obviously, Global Vision has we refer to the Global Vision range as the new range, but the DN range, which is the new, obviously being able to make things a lot smaller and lighter. I'll ask you in a minute why you giggling about that one, so it's going to be a smaller, lighter lens because it's been specifically redesigned for the mirrorless system. So it's going to make a wonderful addition, and looking forward to seeing it. I do get very surprised when we get them in our hands as well, because my always first thing is that it's so much smaller and so much lighter than the previous version that we've seen. Absolutely. As yourself, Joel, very much looking forward to seeing it as well. So that's brilliant. Will be good. I think it's good time.
Just a few comments before we get Paul on. I don't know what he's doing in the background. Is he like watering a plant or something?
Yeah, we're going to stick him on live like that and see how it goes.
Yeah. Tina says, bank manager says don't watch. That might be a wise decision. This camera we're going to talk about looks very good. Steve says, would be interested in a mirrorless versus DSLR at some point if you could consider this. Put in the comments what you mean by that. Do you mean the pros and cons of DSLR versus mirrorless, or the lenses? Just let us know, and we'll definitely.
That's how I would take it.
Something.
Yeah,
cool. Helen says, can we include emojis in the reviews? Of course you can. Although I think you might take explanation if you put 2 dancing cat ladies in a Trustpilot review. But go for it. I look forward to seeing that one.
We know all what you'll mean. Yeah.
Yeah. And David says, sorry, sleeping. Okay, then. And Graham says, Looking forward to watching Paul's review of something I can't even think of affording. It'll be fine.
Yeah, and that's something that we're definitely going to discuss here today as well, is obviously little things like pricing and how it sits in the market. So yeah, no, it's brilliant. So yes, we're very close to coming to introduce Paul into the live feed. Today's sort of main sort of attraction of this week's live episode is we're going to be talking about the brand new flagship sort of camera from the GFX series, the newest version, the GFX100S. If you know that anyone's going to be interested in watching this live and wants to ask sort of any questions, you can actually share the video with anyone that you find that is going to take this. That is good. You know what I'm laughing at? It's Paul's screen, isn't it? So without further ado, I think it's time, because I think he's been waiting to come onto the screen doing whatever he's doing. So I think we'll get him on. And oh no, he's sitting back down. You can go back to cleaning if you want. Yeah, go on. No, he's here. Right, introducing the wonderful Paul Sanders. There we go. Give your lens a good clean there.
Yeah.
Hello, Paul.
Hello, boys.
How are
you? I'm fine. I had you on mute because you were just kind of warbling on.
Yeah.
I tell you,
have you been doing some horticulture in the time?
Yes. Yeah. I've got. You have to look after your plants. You have to talk to them and water them. So I've got my big one up there, and then I've got some lovely little ferny ones down there.
Very good.
So, yeah, I like to give them a good spraying. So it's always nice to give them a good spray. Now, there's somebody very special watching today, and I have to say hello to them. So hello, Trish. That doesn't mean everybody else is less special, but
we're just going to see the viewers go down now.
Yeah, I know that Trish tuned in especially to see me. So that's really kind of her. Everybody else, I'm really grateful you're here, but I know you're all here ready to see Paul and Joel.
No, they're really not.
No, it's definitely half for the new camera and then half for you, Paul. We would say. Yeah.
Well, there's only 36 people watching.
Oh no, we've definitely got more than that watching. Trust me.
All right, only 36 people. Okay. Right. So,
tell us. Everybody wants to know about this thing we're talking about.
Yeah. The new wee beastie.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you've got the camera there with you.
Oh,
look at that.
You should have had like that music.
Yeah, I have got a smoke machine, but I couldn't get the smoke to work. So I was going to do like a.
Paul's got one as well. It's called his vape stick.
Yeah. So what would you like to know about it? I mean, if anybody's got any questions, if anybody's thinking of buying one and wants a question, then if they want to stick it in the messages or in the chat or whatever, then I know that the boys will fire it at me.
Yeah, but I think it's a good place to start would be maybe just explain a little bit about sort of, why the GFX system itself is so sort of unique and different sort of as it sits sort of with every other sort of camera on the market. So
why is it unique and different? Well, I mean, really, it's sort of a medium format style sensor. So it's much bigger than full frame, obviously a lot bigger than the traditional sensor size that Fujifilm put out. So it's 100 megapixels, and it has this one, and the detail and the resolving power of it is incredible. It has the easiest user interface I've ever experienced on any camera I've ever used, and it just sort of fits. Now, I've got to say before I go on that I do work very closely with Fuji, so you might think that I would give a sort of a 5-star review to every Fuji product every Fujifilm product. The only thing I have to remember
We
is
learned that with the S10 though.
Yes, yeah. And I think what you have to remember is that although I work with Fuji, we are entitled to give our own opinion on stuff. So they don't insist that we only say nice things. I will only ever use something that I like and that works for me, and I would only ever give a good review to something that actually worked. There are bits of Fuji kit that I have sent back. They're going to shoot me for saying Fuji, not Fujifilm.
Yeah,
they'll probably fine me. But essentially, you've got a body that's not that much bigger than the X-T4. It's smaller than the current GFX100s, with a sensor that's twice the size, with image stabilization that gives you up to around about they say up to 6 stops, but you know, me using it wasn't quite that, but that, you know, that's probably down to the fact I'm using a pre-production one and not a fully finished all shining one, because the firmware in this is so far behind the firmware that comes in the launch edition. It's it's untrue. And we have to update it, but it won't let us update the firmware because it's convinced it's all shining. It keeps telling me it's I'm up to date. I'm the best I can be, and it's like, no, you're not.
I think it's very interesting, and I think this is something that sort of me and Joel can sort of kick in a little bit as well. But I mean, where it sits in sort of the price point and almost the size as well as it. I mean, it's going right up against things like the Canon R5. It's going up against the new Sony as far as physical size, because, you know, it's roughly the same size as what we find a DSLR, maybe just a touch bigger. And very, very similar price point as well. But as you said, Paul, that you're getting the medium format sensor, and you're getting obviously 100. Is it 102? I can't remember exactly, Joel. Yeah. So, but you know, we can round it down to 100 for argument's sake, can't we? It's not going to make too much difference.
I mean, I shoot square, so I take the 2 off either side. So.
But really, it's a camera that, you know, it's, for me, it's a game changer, because it certainly, you know, we've experienced so much love with the GFX other cameras, you know, the 50S and the 100 standard, but they've sat in their own sort of field almost, and with the new 100S that's come out, obviously the usability of it, which you said is you know, really good, and also you know, the size of it actually brings it into other areas of photography that people might want to sort of try it in.
Yeah, I mean, if you know, the actual weight of the body, I think, is about 900 grams, which is around 20 to 30 grams less than the GFX100S. Yeah. So, you know, and it has a more streamlined feel. So it doesn't have the I don't know whether you can see it, but it doesn't have the kind of the hunchback that the 50S does. You know, and they've saved weight in various places, but it feels really strong. It's a camera that, you know, just it feels kind of chunky and lovely without feeling over big. Yeah, I was a bit worried about the grip, and when I first heard about it, I was a bit worried about the styling, because they lose the retroness of it. Yeah. But it doesn't feel like they've gone sort of mainstream. It feels like they've sort of evolved their system to work in a way that is even more user friendly. I think quite a lot of people found the knobs and dials more confusing. You can still set it up so the top plate looks like it's got knobs and dials, but they're digital knobs and dials. And I think a lot of people use the camera with the thumb dial and the finger dial underneath the shutter release, in the same way that people who switch from Canon and Nikon to Fujifilm, you know, would automatically set that up to work that way. And I think all the designers have done is, well, actually, people aren't using the dial at the top. So if we take the dial at the top away, nobody's actually going to miss it. And they're right. What they have replaced on the left is I call it a spam dial, but it's not really a spam dial.
Paul's role in marketing is just on the cusp.
Yeah,
you're going to go big one day in marketing, Paul.
Oh yeah, I'm huge in marketing. But I was like, when we had the briefing about it at the House of Photography last year, when they said they were losing the shutter dial and replacing it with the spam dial, I was like, Ross, I was like, oh no, what are they doing? What are they doing? But actually, it makes perfect sense. And I thought I was going to be one of those people who was like, I want my shutter speed dial back, and I don't want a spam dial. But we've got a spam dial. It could be called a maps dial. There are many other words that you can make out.
PASM.
A PASM. Yeah. And there's a lot of C's around the dial as well. So, but I like being by the sea, so it's okay.
So maybe if people aren't so much in the know, obviously if you've been a little bit familiar with Fujifilm in the past, they have been known in the past to have things like the aperture control on a wheel, also the shutter speed on a wheel, and your ISO on a wheel. So it gives that sort of really retro feel. We've seen it before with the XS10 that was released, and they've taken sort of some of that sort of Fortin feeling and put it into the GFX100S. And it would be probably safe to say that it's more like sort of other cameras sort of on the market. But I think what they've done with the GFX100S is that they've really found that marriage between, what it is to have a Fujifilm camera and also mixing in that sort of usability that everyone can just sort of pick up a professional camera and where you are with it and sort of off you go.
Yeah. I mean,
I think also having the color science in there as well, like that continuation, which is well, at least a lot of the reason why people buy Fuji. Obviously, the retro is one side because they do look amazing, and then also the color science as well. So it's interesting that they went that approach, though.
But the styling of it is really nice. I was genuinely surprised how much I liked it, because I was quite prepared to go, no, I'm sticking with my 50S. And as soon as I had to play with it and I had it for a few days, I sent my 50S off to be sold, because I just knew that this was the right move for me. And I think it's important to say that, I don't change cameras without serious thought. I mean, my kit has to be able to earn its keep, and I have to feel that I'm going to get the kind of the payback from it. So it's going to have to improve the way my prints look. It's going to have to, sort of fit in the space that works in the bag, ideally smaller and lighter. It needs to be a step up in terms, not only file size, but faster focusing, easier usability. I mean, my eyes are going pear-shaped and my fingers aren't as sensitive as they used to be. So, the buttons and things are a big issue. And all of those things come together. I mean, I've been using it in gloves, and I've not struggled with any button control. And that's a lot of people keep saying, oh, the buttons are too low profile. Actually, they're not. If I can use it in my sort of, winter gloves, then, and they don't have the kind of the peel back fingers that are really cool. I just have normal fingers.
Regular.
Regular fingers.
It's a relief.
Now,
go on.
I know you're a very tripod orientated photographer, Paul, especially when it comes to some of the lovely work that we've seen from you in the past. But I mean, I think at some point we're going to have to mention that this camera, a little bit more about, one of the main features of this as well, which is the built-in image stabilizer, or shortened down to IBIS. And I know obviously you're in sort of a pre-production model there, but I think just in general, this is going to change, the way that we can use this camera for a lot of people. So it's gonna. I think it's going to make a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really use image stabilization very much because of the tripod, but I've used it a couple of times on this just to see, and I mean, I've seen an improvement of around about sort of 4 to 5 stops being able to hand hold it comfortably, and I was really surprised. If you use it on a tripod with the IBIS on, you can see that you've got it on, because it's not the wisest thing to do. So my blurred images were even more blurred, but it really is quite incredible when you sort of take it out for a spin. I mean, I normally can handhold a GFX at sort of about a 60th of a second. I used to be able to do it much better, but I've got a little bit of a shake now. But this one I could get down easily to an 1/8 of a second and have sharp results. And obviously, the wider your lens, the longer you can hold it. So with with the 110, it was a little bit shorter than that, but with the
23,
80, 23, anything like that.
The 3264.
Yeah, all those other lenses that it's like, here I am.
Yeah.
So, So, I mean, what do you want to know? Has anybody got any burning questions?
Yeah, let's go through some other questions now. Whilst you have a drink, Paul.
Thank you.
Right.
Just trying to cool my embarrassment at forgetting all the lenses that Fujifilm make. And I can see that Richard Wan has tuned in as well, so he's going to be going, sack him.
Yeah. He's there with a clipboard for your annual review, just like that, going, failed that.
So David Yeoman says, how much DR, which is dynamic range, is there compared with a 50S, and does the extra level of the 16-bit RAW files give any more detail recovery over the 14-bit of the GFX50?
Right, I'm not the most technical photographer, as David knows, and I'm fairly certain he's chucked this in.
Note well, the 12th of March, I think, I'll double check the calendar, we have 12th, James Gilbert from Fujifilm, not Fujifilm, and he'll be able to give us some more help on the technical side of the GFX100S and stuff like that. So
I'm more of a user, but dynamic range is important. I think, and this isn't a scientific test, David, but I think there's about 14 stops of dynamic range in the camera. And then you can also dial up the dynamic range to the normal 100, 200 or 400% that Fujifilm offer. The detail in the RAWs. Now, I haven't got a RAW file converter yet because Lightroom and Capture One haven't released it. It's due out early March, but I've been doing the in-camera TIFF conversion just to get a nice big file size to work with. The level of detail is frightening, absolutely frightening compared to the 50S. I mean, I won't say it's like double, but it's which would be the natural thing, but it's so much more. When you blow into the files, the amount of detail around the point of focus is utterly mind blowing. I was quite frightened by it because I quite like a soft sort of feel, but the pixels seem to pick up absolutely every single thing, which is quite incredible. I mean, because I do a lot of flower photography, and I normally use a black cloth in the background, and when I looked at the black cloth, the amount of dust and pollen that I could actually see on it when I blew into the files, I was just like, oh my god, I'm going to have to hoover every time I do any kind of flower photography using a black background, because...
Can you do thread count?
Yes, you can. I'm not lying, you can.
This isn't
Yeah.
Egyptian cotton.
No, it's not
Yeah.
Egyptian cotton. It's rough Hessian, and I can count the threads. But yeah,
I
so
think
I mean, I think David, you won't be disappointed. You'll be
Yeah.
more disappointed if you stay with your 50s.
Oh, right. Dennis Hocking. Hello, Mr. Hocking. Do you notice? What a reaction! Oh no. Do you notice any
technical questions?
IQ or image quality difference to the GFX100 in low light?
Okay. Do you want to share my screen, chaps? And I'll.
Yeah.
We certainly can.
So I'm just. So I thought somebody might ask about low light. So this is.
Did you think it was going to be Dennis?
It's going to be Dennis. But I mean, if you obviously these images are kind of broadcast over the internet, so you're probably not going to get the full glory. But the image quality in here, if I blow that up, that's absolutely razor sharp. Now this is a pre-production model, so it's not going to be quite as refined as the production kit, but I mean the shadow detail in it, I mean if you look at that histogram, it's literally one into the other.
Yeah, it's all there, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a really hard thing. If I just pull the exposure up, so I mean it looks awful, but there's so much.
You can actually see everything's still there.
There's so much detail in there.
Yeah.
But if you
that's on a JPEG as well, isn't it, Paul?
that's a TIFF now.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I went back in and just did the TIFF. But if you think that word Bedford Brie that is part of the news is just here, it's such a small part of the file, and look how sharp it is.
Yeah, that's
insane.
I mean, you're even reading stuff that is like, if I bring that back, watch. That key cutting sign disappears into the shadow. So if I take it back to 0, there's so much information in the files. If I have the next image along. So this is one of my plants, but again, the detail in these, they take ages to load the files up. I think one problem I'm going to have is that my computer can't keep up with it. But if you
there we go, it's just snapped in.
Yeah.
So basically, we need to suggest with every GFX100S purchase a brand new laptop or computer.
Yeah. Oh god, yeah. I'm not storing my files on the computer. They're on a Lacy drive, but there's no little or no noise in the shadows when you really rack the detail out as well. For a camera to have that ability, for me is just it's honestly, it's like wow. And it sounds a bit a bit sort of Fuji fanboyish, but what they've done with the way the sensor sort of shows the image, it has a lovely filmic quality. So the prints that I've done don't feel like digital prints. They have a lovely rendering, which is not distracting, it's not grainy, it's not noisy, it's really smooth. But it has the files feel alive. And I mean, I've been printing images all week off it, just to see. And the print quality is absolutely stunning. And comparing it sort of like for like with the 50S and the 50R, there is no comparison. I mean, in the 4 years that the 50S has been out, and although through all the firmware updates, what Fuji have achieved here with this sensor is incredible.
Yeah,
So
I think it's very nice to hear your approach on like how to look at sort of a new camera and the images that come off it. As you said, not a very technical way of sort of looking at it, but it shows that we've seen this sort of feel, this sort of film look from Fuji within sort of the X system, and it's moved now up onto the GFX system. It's just giving you that sort of, like you said, that film look. It gives it that different look that Fujifilm that do to their images that is really great. But now it's backed up with this amazing high resolution that you can use for, well, printing. We're talking virtually any size here, aren't we? We're talking we're talking big prints here if we wanted to.
Oh, the native size of them is enormous. I mean, I have to, really reduce the file size to actually get them even on my A2 paper. So it's lovely to see such detail rendered in such a sympathetic way to the subject. It's not kind of like, here's loads of detail and the edges are all kind of like clashing and there's loads of, weirdness in kind of digital. So I don't know what the word is, but if I just blow into here, the level of detail in those shadows is incredible. And to get that, that rendering in that way with all the sort of the gentleness of the tones is what I'm kind of trying to say is wonderful for a photographer, because you can work into the shadow areas, you can work into the highlights. So I mean, effectively, in answer to Dennis's question, the only noticeable difference in image quality is a massive improvement.
Excellent.
But I know Dennis has already ordered it, so.
Just a quick aside, Mark Gilligan says 25 sit-ups for calling it Fuji, Mr. Sanders. There we go.
Oh, right, okay. I'll do that now.
Yeah.
You probably only managed to.
Yeah. Dennis says handheld down to a 30th of a second possible with GFX100. Assume the 100S is the same. But you mentioned earlier, depending on the lens, you could get down to an 1/8.
Yeah. I've gone down to an 1/8 of a second, and it's been, I would say, acceptably sharp.
Yeah.
So not like tripod razor sharp quality, but acceptably sharp. But it's taken on I think that was taken on the 30, if I remember right. I haven't got it on this set of images, but I think it was taken on the 30mm. So quite a light lens, and the conditions were quite still, so I wasn't kind of being blown around. But talking of conditions, I've used this camera in heavy snow and freezing conditions. So -10 was the actual temperature. I've used it in the pouring rain and deliberately not covered it up. It's don't tell Andreas or Richard Wan, but it's been in the sea. It's been in the fog. It's been deliberately left out of the car on a tripod while the rain has been hammering down, just to see if it stops working, and it hasn't. The battery life on it is good for about 460 shots, which is actually a lot, and it takes the new, well, not the new, but the XT4 battery. And I would say, if you're going to get one, buy 2 batteries. You won't probably need it, but it depends how much you review your images, and how much time you kind of leave it on for. I mean, I still take a few images, but I don't have it on all the time. So I've gone a couple of days without charging a battery, but I think 406 is what they say. It obviously goes down a bit in cold weather, but I was surprised by the battery performance in the very cold weather that we had a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I think the thing is there as well is that, you know, when you go out on a day shoot, Paul, you're
Yeah.
typically only using you yourself as a photographer. You're only using one battery. You know, you don't find the need that you need to go into two, because it's very, like you said, like it depends how much you're going to be reviewing or having the camera on. So I think it's quite important sometimes to actually refer to, like, you know, how many days shooting that I do and I get out of it, sort of thing. Because, you know, it's, you know, a sports photographer can go through 400 and, you know, 460 photos, you know, very, very quickly. But it doesn't necessarily work like that. It's sort of how long the camera is on for is basically where the power comes from. So, you know, we're sort of saying that, you know, if you sort of photograph almost like Paul Sanders, you like your long exposure and things like that, then probably not the right term there, but there we go.
There's a different scale of battery life for people that shoot like Paul.
But it's just saying that you're going to get through a day absolutely fine, aren't you, on one battery?
I mean, unless you're going absolutely mad, you know, blitzing everything, you'll be fine with one battery. But I mean, you know, it's always a good thing to have a backup just in case.
Have a spare.
Have a spare. It's wise. It's a wise move.
Quickly moving so we can get through some of these questions. Trish says, how heavy is the body? I think you said it was 900 grams.
Yeah, it's about this heavy, Trish. It's 900 grams, but obviously there is extra weight in the lenses. You know, the GF system lenses, the GFX system lenses, you know, they're not super light. If I was going to buy one lens to go on, I'd probably buy the 32 to 64, which I think is an absolute dream of a lens. You know, for me, I've got a 23, a 30, a 45, and a 110, and that's my lot. But I don't think my bag is heavy with those in. I did used to have the 100 to 200, but I found that heavy for me for the amount of times that I used it. So I, you know, I don't worry. I don't worry that I haven't got a very long lens in my bag. It's not an issue for me. I just work around it.
It's to do with the, you know, the type of photography that sort of suits you, really. And, you know, this applies for, you know, any camera. You know, it's sort of evaluating what gear that you've got in your bag and seeing what is the best for you to take out for the type of photography that you do. So these are some wonderful photos that we're seeing up on the screen here as well, Paul.
Yeah, thank you. That's very nice of you to say.
It's,
you know,
it's nice to see from two reasons. Obviously, we get to see the quality of the new camera as well, but I think generally it's just sort of there's a lovely calming that comes from some of your pictures as well. So, which is always nice to see.
It's probably a lot calmer than working with Joel normally. So.
I have to keep muting because my son keeps running around, but I had to unmute for that comment. Shocking behaviour.
Yeah, you're just trying.
No, they are really great images.
You just want to abuse me. The one thing this camera does pick up on, because it has so many little pixies in there, little pixies just like Joel.
I thought that was Sarah's job as the Fuji fairy.
What? Yeah, she's the Fuji fairy. You can be the Fuji pixie.
I'm the worst looking pixie ever.
Well, I didn't want to say dwarf. What it will pick up on is if there is any subject movement at all. If you do, I mean, because I do a lot of long exposure. If you get any camera movement or subject movement, it's quite unforgiving. You know, which I was a bit, you know, sort of like, oh, it's, you know, why am I getting a blurred image? And I realized that there was a tiny bit of movement in the camera because of I was on unstable a little bit of unstable sand with the tide washing around it, and I was like, oh right, okay. You know, so it does make you, it makes you slow down. It makes you think about absolutely everything, which again I love, because the 50S slowed me right down. And this has made me, I am so slow, I will probably be asleep now. You know, God forbid.
Just imagine a sloth going past you taking pictures.
Oh no, yeah, you know, I mean, blimey, I am so sloth-like, it's unbelievable. You know, I mean, if I had 3 fingers or 3 toes or whatever they have, I'd be, you know, we'd be fine.
Right, we'll move on to another question. Oh dear. Graham says, what computer is Paul using to play with the Masufit files?
A MacBook Pro 15-inch, which is 5 years old. But like I say, I run my Lightroom through a Lacy external hard drive. You know, so it's, I think, you know, the handling of these files is not too bad on this. It could probably be a bit quicker, but actually it's fine. I think if I was editing, if I had shot a wedding on this and on this computer, I would probably need to upgrade to something a bit faster, if I'm honest. But for the sort of photography,
use hard drive, is the Lacy a hard drive or SSD?
Oh, Joel, it's orange. I've no idea.
Because I know that's going to be a question from one of the technical people. It'll be, is it a spinny drive or?
It's a Lacy rugged 4 terabyte.
Okay,
thing.
so it's a hard drive, not an SSD. Okay.
Yeah, it's got a lovely orange bountiful case, and
which is why you bought it.
Exactly. I have no idea. You know, I mean, you're asking the wrong person. You know, what is SSD? I mean, is that a disease or is it?
I hope not. For those that don't know, an SSD is solid state drive. Before you start looking up on the World Health Organization website what SSD is, and find something you probably don't want to find.
No.
Moving on, Dennis says, with your eye to the new shortened EVF, does your nose touch the screen?
Am I in?
We'll do it. We'll do a zoomed in for this. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. It does. It doesn't match my nose. It depends what eye you use. It doesn't kind of do that. It doesn't do that with my nose. But yeah, just. Yeah. No, I've got a cute button nose, according to my mum. No,
you heard it here first.
She's never said that. Button nose. This is supposed to be a serious review of a camera, and Paul is in tears.
He said he wouldn't do this when I spoke to him. He said he prepares himself when Paul Sanders comes on so that he doesn't lose it.
But I see, it worries me because I think that people don't take me seriously. You know, I mean, there he is.
I've no idea why you'd think that, Paul.
I don't know.
I'll work on it. I'll figure out why it is.
Yeah,
I'll come back to you. Right, there we go. So some good advice. Depending on if your face shape is similar to Paul's or not, your nose may or may not touch the screen, but it doesn't squash it sideways. So that's a relief.
No, I think in all honesty, yes, your nose is going to touch the screen, and that'll be for, you know, for everybody. I think if I was photographing properly like that, then yes. When I work on a tripod, I rarely look through the viewfinder. I use the screen. My nose still touches the screen then because I have to put my glasses on to see it. So let's go down. Yeah, put that one up.
Right. Okay. Who makes the three-way head that Paul had under the GFX100S?
Oh, on the photograph, it's Arca Swiss. It's a D4,
There
which
we go.
I have to say is the best tripod head I've ever used, and was recommended to me by Cambrian customer Debbie Izzet, because she came to do a workshop with me, and I was very impressed with it. I used to use a ball head. I used to use an FLM ball head, and I wanted something that was a little bit easier to control. So when she was here, I saw her. Oh, I like the geared bit, but I don't like on some of the geared heads. There's a lot of, they're over levered, and this one, the simplicity of the design. It's such a beautiful head to use. So I'm eternally grateful to Debbie for recommending it. It's not a cheap head. I did have to find it from a sort of a cheap source on eBay, but it's a very, very good head. Recommended, 5 stars.
Other websites are available for purchasing things.
Yeah, sorry.
Facebook Marketplace. No. It's something Paul and I say every time somebody mentions a trademarked name, or a brand.
Right. Yeah.
Others may be available. Right. So Andrew says, how much are you happy to crop to add reach before you feel it materially impacts on image quality?
Well, all of my images are taken on this. I've been having to shoot full frame because I normally shoot square. So I've chopped off literally 1/3 of the image because I'm shooting square. And I haven't noticed any degradation in the image. I would imagine you could probably lose about 2/3 easily without noticing anything. If I was shooting news still, I'd be cropping into these images massively. I mean, we used to crop into the images off the early Canon digitals, and the files were terrible. These files are amazing, so you could easily crop down into a sort of a nice kind of 35mm sort of shape, roughly out of the middle, without any worry.
Wow,
that's brilliant.
Oh, we've got a side question here. What's your next song, Marty? And then we have David Yeoman says, thanks, Paul, for the informative answers. And Erica says hello, wavy hand emoji. And then Dennis says the 1/30th of the second was in a blizzard in the Arctic with the 110. Sounds impressive to me.
Yeah, well done.
That's quite an achievement.
Dennis always has to go kind of one better. I mean, he's a rugged explorer type. I mean, that was probably the point that he thought the boat was sinking as well. So he was probably on a sinking boat, which was originally bouncing over the waves. So on land, Dennis can probably handhold a second.
Yeah,
he is that steady.
Rock solid.
Yeah.
Right.
If I was that way, I would go out with Dennis because he's that steady. You could go steady with Dennis.
Graham says, how is the continuous focus thinking about moving people or animals?
Right. I'm going to be really honest here. I have not tried it, mainly because it's not something I do. And to be honest, I forgot about it. I should have done. It is the whole focus thing is phase detection. I understand. So it's already better than the 50S and the 50R because they had phase detection and the contrast stuff. But where I've used it a little bit, I've only used it on the sort of single point, not the continuous focusing. So it would be unfair of me to say it's amazing when I haven't tested it.
Yeah. I think another way of maybe sort of breaking that down a little bit and asking it in a slightly different way as well, coming back to that just usability, have you noticed even when you've been using it on a single point that it feels a little bit more snappier? Or
it's very fast. It's very fast, and it focuses much better on flat things as well. Whereas the GFX100s, which I used a lot, would sometimes struggle if things were very light in tone, sort of a continuous tone, or very dark. This seems to have an ability to be able to find something in there to grab onto, and it does snap. It hunted a little bit when I'm doing extreme close-ups. It hunted a little bit on those with extension tubes on the 110, but I was focusing on a very, very tiny area, probably just on the fringes of the closest focus I could get. So it was probably down to that. But in sort of normal shooting conditions, it feels faster. I've not timed it, but it feels faster, and it feels.
I feel like that'd be a reaction time test.
Yeah,
like you did at school.
Yeah, so there we go. I apologise, Graham. I should have tested that more thorough.
No, I think that's a very good. I think that's a very good answer, and I think sometimes, because me and Joel and all the team here at Cambrian, we are surrounded by lots of technical different things, and we can get very sort of submerged in the technical side of things. So just to hear it from a different point of view, that it feels that just from your point of view, saying that I can see a difference, it feels a lot different from what I've used from the 50S is really informative, actually, from a different perspective.
Yeah, because of how I shoot, I keep the camera in manual focusing mode, but I use the AF button to back, so that I have back button focus, purely because when I shoot with ND filters, I don't want to be turning it on and turning it off. The less I have to think about the camera, the better.
Yeah.
So I'm not one of those people who goes, I only shoot manually because it's more accurate. It's absolute rubbish. I couldn't focus to save my life anymore. So I use the AF button rather than the front button. So it is fast. I think it's probably nanoseconds faster.
Tina says, if you got one of these, which lens would you recommend as all around, only being able to afford one?
That would be the 32 to 64. That was the very first lens I had, and I thought it was a fantastic lens. It really was. It's great for landscapes. It's great for portraits. It really is a beautiful lens, and it's so sharp.
Good choice. Good choice. Malcolm says, a concern is the size of raw files. Please explain how you manage those file sizes within your workflow. Thanks.
Oh my Lord. So the raw files, they're about, I think, when they're on your computer, they're about 200 odd megabytes, which is massive. But my workflow hasn't changed. I import them into Lightroom, and my Lightroom catalog and files are all stored on the Lacy drive, which I now know is a hard drive, not an SSD.
Just so you know, Paul, you'll get a speed advantage by having an SSD.
Will I? So what you're telling me is I need to buy a new hard drive?
No, you need to buy a new SSD.
As long as they do it in orange, it's fine. I mean, I don't care.
I'll get one for you. I'll spray paint it orange.
Okay, that's fine. Orange is important.
Clearly.
Yeah. So they come into my Lightroom catalog, and I edit them exactly the same as none of my workflow has changed. All that I will be aware of is that the storage space on my drive will get eaten up quite quickly. But handling the files, I don't work in any different way. I've not made any extra sort of allowances or anything like that. I mean, I don't think your workflow would need to alter. I mean, I rarely use Photoshop. I just use Photoshop to print through. But when I have printed, the time to go from Lightroom into Photoshop is a bit longer because my computer's quite slow. You know, but I work very slowly. If you work fast, if you're in a rush all the time, then yeah, you're gonna need a bit more oomph. But that's a technical term, I believe, John.
Yeah, sounds it.
I
Similar
mean,
to megabits.
Yeah, I mean the raw files are big, Malcolm, but you can you know, you can just shoot with the JPEG if you want. I think there's an option to do, and you'll have to ask James about this, but I think you can shoot in a lower version of the raw file as well.
Like compressed versus loss, uncompressed or lossless compressed.
Yeah, we're saving some of these questions for the 12th of March as well, where we can get really into the technical side of things and how it actually, you know, if you are of a techie mind and you want to know the exact sort of numbers and what it's going to do for you, then we can certainly get those answered when James from Fujifilm comes in and helps us out with some of the more technical stuff. Yeah,
sounds good.
I'm doing my
Helen
best.
says, yeah, you are. You're doing great. Helen says, got to agree with Beardy Paul. I'm loving these images. I well agree. I think Paul's images are stunning. David Yeoman says, Joel is the blue pixies. How's that even a thing? Oh, my life. Right. David says, I have the 3264 and the 120 f4, which suit my photography. The 3264 is a great all-round lens for landscape and general subjects, and the 120 is superb for plants.
Definitely.
So there we go. I think that's very true. The 120 is a great lens for macro work. Especially if you can get the stacking right.
Stacking?
So, focus stacking.
Oh, right. I thought you meant you put them on top of each other.
Yeah, if you balance them just right so they don't fall over and cause you a couple of grand's worth of damage. Eric says, brilliantly answered, it's orange. Yeah, definitely. And Andrew says, they make orange SSDs now. Happy to rest files of different drives or just send me the camera. There we go. Happy to test.
Okay.
I think he said happy to test. Yeah. There we go, Paul. Oh, Dennis.
It goes back to Fuji.
With my nose.
Your nose, Dennis. I deliberately left your nose out of it. However, yes.
I knew this was coming at some point.
With your nose, Dennis, yes, you will be touching the viewfinder, and that's not me being rude. You know I love you.
Dear. Oh, there we go. Andrew did do a spell check change.
Talking about noses, Erica asked a very valid question. Can you turn the screen off?
Okay.
Yes, I guess you can.
Yeah. So if you have nose issues, you can turn the touch screen off. To be honest,
or if you're very clever with your nose, can you move the focus point around with your nose?
Yeah, you could. You can even take
nose
pictures
autofocus.
I mean, you knows best, Joel.
Hey, well done.
You can turn the screen off, or you can set the screen to work in different parameters. So, I always turn it off. I've got enough issues with a touch screen phone. A touch screen that's operating with my nose is it's just a nightmare. So,
Steve says superb images, Paul. Definitely. And Debbie says I got mine for a very good price from Cambrian secondhand.
She did, yes, but you didn't have one when I wanted one.
Very sorry, Paul. Very sorry. Right.
You've not commented, Joel, on the nature of the image on the screen. You've not observed.
Well,
That's
I have.
True.
I was waiting for a gap. So
it's in colour.
It's in colour.
It's in colour.
So yes, everybody, the GFX100S is not a monochrome camera. It's actually a colour camera, and they have different coloured pixels.
Yeah, amazing. It has very, very, very colourful pixels. I understand they're red, blue, and green.
Very good. Oh, I've just seen this pop up.
Colour. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Erica. It's nice to know that somebody was paying attention. Yeah. So I do occasionally allow colour to filter through, but I thought in the means of sharing, it would be nice to show colour.
I love how that like only a portion of the image is in color. You couldn't give the whole frame to color, just a portion of it.
There are a lot of pixels, right? And I did not want to wear them out. I just thought
that's going to be a great one. When you send us your stuff secondhand and we sell it, we'll go, this was used by Paul Sanders. He often works in black and white so as not to wear out the pixels. Very well looked after camera.
Yeah. I mean, I think, people go on about how many actuations your shutter has had. Nobody checks how many times the red pixel has been used.
Do you use only first and second gear on your car so you don't wear out third, fourth, and fifth?
I've only got one gear on my car because it's electric.
Oh yeah, you've got an electric now.
So yes, I only use first gear.
But when you traded in the other one.
Yeah, my van I only ever use first and second, but then I used to drive it around London. So.
Yeah. Oh dear. Andrew says I would suggest a NAS drive of SSD caching. There we go. You can privately message Andrew and ask him what that all means, because I'm not explaining it to you on here.
Okay.
Malcolm says thank you for that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Dennis says, I used both Capture One and Lightroom to convert the raw files from the GFX100. Paul, did you say neither could read the files off the 100S?
Not at the moment. The update is coming in a few days, I believe. So at the moment, because the camera's not kind of out in the wild, if you like, they haven't released the Adobe or the Capture One update, but I believe it's coming. If I wanted to do the raw files, I could use an EXIF editor and just put GFX100 in the EXIF editor, and then it would read them. But to be honest, I'm too lazy. So I told you I'd be honest. I am. It's just something I don't need to do. So I've done in-camera conversion to a TIFF file for most of the images, and they're really lovely. I can't wait to look at the raws actually. But in my non-technical way, the files are very lovely.
Yeah.
Good. Graham says, cheers guys, got to go TO8s. I'll hold off ordering maybe the XE4. Well, we'll see you on the 12th of March because James will hopefully be going through the XE4 with us, so you can ask him questions about that. Eric says, thank you. I feel better now. I'm not doing nose aerobics though.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be a great video though. There we go. Andrew's looking at the positives. At least nose focusing saves you from taking your gloves off.
It does, but you don't need to, because the button is right where your thumb falls, and it feels so different to the other buttons on the back that you can operate it in gloves, so you don't need to take your gloves off. That's what I love about it. I think of all the cameras I've used, this is one that I would say is designed for landscape photographers. It worked beautifully in a studio, and it works really nicely in my little home studio. But as a landscape photographer's camera, I would only ever sing its praises, because you can work with gloves on, and it works in the cold, in the rain, in the sunshine. I've thrown sand at it to see if that gets inside anywhere. I left it right by the sea, so it got covered in sea spray, and also when it goes back to Fujifilm, it probably won't work.
It won't have half its paintwork left on.
No, but you see, they give me stuff to test because I tested destruction, as they knew with the X Pro 2 when I smashed the only one that they had.
At least this is where Paul shows us a video of doing DIY with it, using it as a hammer.
No, there is a video of me taking the lens hood off something with a lathe, and hacksawing the front off a Zeiss lens to make it so I could use my Lee filters.
That's a video I want to see.
I'll see if I can dig it out for you. It was on Twitter years ago. I'll dig it out for you.
Sounds good. David, is a blue pixie a Smurf? I don't know, possibly.
Yeah, you'd be Papa Smurf.
Yeah, really? Okay, good. I'm glad that was some of the other ones you could have chosen. Mark Bray says not orange pixels. And David says the Fuji focus stacking and drive settings of the GFX100s work really well with the 120 on close-ups. I've used focus stacking on landscape subjects on the 32-64 without problems. Excellent. Yeah. It's a very good feature.
Yeah, and the multiple exposure settings in the camera work really nicely. I've not shown any of my multiple exposures because I'm not very good at it, but they've put in different blending modes now as well, so that really helps.
Oh, like on the X-T4 and the X Pro 3.
Yeah, yeah,
excellent.
So
right. Do you have any other words of wisdom for the great people watching? We don't have any more questions. So do you have anything else that you think we've missed?
Yes. If I was going to buy one of these, I would buy it from you. Well, actually, I'd buy it from Sarah. I wouldn't buy it from you because you probably put your fingers over the lens, Joel.
My battery's running low on the camera for some reason.
Yeah, he's about to go. If we do lose Joel.
Yeah, bye, Joel. Plug it in, mate. Plug it in.
There we go.
Oh, there we go. Switched camera.
Yeah.
Fixed.
You need it to pedal harder. If you get little Noah to get on that bike and pedal, because
I don't know what's going on with the batteries today because my laptop battery's on 7%.
Oh my goodness! Do you not use power?
Have to say goodbye. It normally doesn't need it.
No, sorry. Well, we have gone on for an hour and a bit, so
yeah, we have.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
So buy it from us, not from me, from Sarah. Okay.
Yeah, from Sarah, because Joel will put his fingers all over it and probably rub his nose over the screen.
We're just testing the autofocus work.
No.
Quality control.
Yeah, I can't speak highly enough. One of the nicest things about this camera, one of the things I hate about getting a new camera is putting the strap things on. Those little key fob things. This comes with them already attached.
Is it the lugs?
Yeah.
Like the slide-on lugs?
These little, there you go, those little flappy bits.
Oh, they use the triangle ones on these ones.
Yeah, the triangle one. They're already attached. How thoughtful is Mr. Fujifilm? How thoughtful is that? It means I don't have to kind of hurt my nails. So I can go and have my nails done and don't have to then stress about it. No, it's fantastic. Plus the trade-in is good.
Yes.
Get an extra 450 quid trade-in bonus. This will be the last camera I ever buy. I'm not buying another one after this.
Until next year or 2 years.
No. This is it for me. I'm done.
Yeah. I think that there on an ending is absolutely lovely. You know, this will be the last camera that you buy. So, that's wonderful to hear. And thank you so much, Paul, for coming on. You know, it's always lovely to have you on. You know, yourself.
Massive thank you.
And then also coming on to spend so much time with us as well. You know, you've been on
putting up with us
for an hour, putting up with us.
Yeah. Got nothing better to do on a Friday night, have I? No.
No, and and a big thank you to everyone watching as well and commenting. We've had so many comments through. It's been absolutely wonderful to see. Lots of things to talk about, so it's been absolutely brilliant, and a bit of laughter along the way, which never
My
hurts
face
anyone.
hurts.
Yeah, your face is killing me.
Hey, did you not see that comment from Dennis about don't clean the screen just in case the camera just in case you scare people? Oh dear. Well, massive thank you, Paul. It's been great to see you.
It's always fun. I just hope that I've not blotted my copybook with Richard and the guys at Fujifilm.
No, I'm sure they'll love it.
For the number of times I called Fujifilm Fuji, I'm going to have abs of steel.
Yeah, it's true.
Next time I'll come on without a top on so you can see them.
Oh dear.
No. Just in case my mum's watching. No.
Yeah, we might have to put a PG sign up or something like that.
18, mate.
18.
If these babies come out.
Oh dear, what a bombshell to leave on.
On that
Indeed,
bombshell,
indeed.
I'm going. All right. Thank you very much. Have a really great weekend, guys. See you soon. Bye.
Cheers, Paul. Bye.
Thanks for joining us. Oh, absolutely wonderful. You know what? It's brilliant, isn't it? You know, I get a wonderful, cheek glow after when Paul comes on every time. So it's
cheek ache.
Yeah, but it's great. It's a lovely feeling knowing that
definitely.
you've laughed so much, and it's absolutely fantastic. So big thank you again to Paul, and again to everyone that's joined in live. It's always lovely to have so many people joining in live to these Photography Out Loud episodes that you do. If you enjoyed it so much that you want to share it with your friends, and please do hit that share button. Share it with everyone that you know. And also make sure that you go onto our Facebook and YouTube channels, hit the like, subscribe, all of those things. Everything you do from that point of view does help us push forward with all these wonderful episodes that we're doing here. Joel, any final thoughts before we say goodbye for the weekend?
Two thoughts. Sorry if we've missed any comments. There's been quite a lot through, so just a massive thank you to all of you. We didn't intend to miss anybody out. And I hope you have a great weekend. Hopefully the weather will be good. You can get out in the garden or go for a walk. And see you next week.
Bye-bye for now, everyone.
Cheers. Bye now.